Hey everybody, I bought this nice book. I came across it on Amazon, Norman's Rare Guitars. And if you're like me, you've watched many videos from his store in Los Angeles. That Mark Agnesi, I think he's now with Gibson, does a lot of them that I've enjoyed. And I bought this book, and it's what it really is just a bunch of pictures of vintage guitars. So it's kind of like porn for guitar players. You can just kind of gaze longingly at all these beautiful vintage guitars from the 50s and 60s. I think some go up into the 70s, but it's mostly 50s and 60s guitars. So, what I thought we'd do is just kind of look through some. It's a pretty big book. It would make an excellent book for your coffee table or something. But we'll probably just kind of focus tonight on Fenders, and depending on how long that takes, maybe even just Telecasters. I recently bought a Fender 70th Anniversary Esquire, which piqued my interest in some of these vintage guitars because the specs on that guitar make it play different. And when you play those old 50s rock and blues songs and country songs too, you can really hear the difference. I attribute it at least somewhat to the neck radius of 7.25. But anyway, for that old music, these old guitars, I don't think it was just their pickups. I actually think it was something about the way their necks are. They're so good for rhythm. You got a forward by Tom Petty. I don't know the man. I've never been in his store, so I'm not even going to start to try to say anything about him, his store, or even really a lot of these guitars. We're just going to kind of look at them together and drool. I think I've got pretty good light on this, I hope. There's a broadcaster. Let's see, let's zoom in. There's a broadcaster. 1950 natural. These are all Blackguards. It seems like almost all these early tellies were Blackguards. So then you start to see like Lake Placid Blue and some other colors. Let's just gaze longingly. Here we go. Some more broadcasters. Look at that. These are all 1950 broadcasters. I guess the crass question is to ask what they're worth. Sorry, I can't help it. I just wonder. 35, 40, 50? I don't know. Another thing I notice is that they seem to be in excellent shape. So, you know, like when you buy these relics from the custom shop, they look like they've been through World War III, you know. And really, when you think about it, it's nice to, you know, who wants to buy a guitar that's all beat up and damaged? You know, it's nice. You can see some fretwear and things. I do think that's cool. And it means a good player played it or player played it. And there is something nice about a guitar that a good player has had that's kind of broken in or played a lot. Like Clapton's guitars were kind of like that and got all worn. But you know, these look like they're in almost mint condition. Wow. I mean, really. You know, this kind of reminds me of the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. We used to go there on field trips. I've been there many times. I was raised in Detroit. And you'd go in there, and you either loved it or you hated it. If you were interested in mechanics, you would love it. It was kind of like this, only for you know, non-musical things. So they would have just rooms full of the first sewing machines, and then rooms full of the first typewriters, and rooms full of, and there would be people that would just get lost in there for days looking at the world's first, you know, a bunch of early light bulbs, stuff like that. Here's an Esquire. There we go. Shall we say an Esquire is kind of like a Tele with one pickup? Does that mean it was kind of like the Les Paul Jr. of its day? I don't know. We're getting some whites here, some blondes. There's another Esquire. Okay, now we got a burst. 57 Tele. Look at that. You know, the one thing I wanted my Esquire to be a burst, and Guitar Center where I tend to buy up my guitars, it was sold out of the burst. So, and they aren't making them anymore. So they did have a couple used white ones. I kind of thought for a minute, I had some regret that I didn't try to buy one of the used white ones. They didn't have any new white ones. Then I thought, you know, I want to be the original owner, because that 70th anniversary Esquire is kind of a piece that you want to collect, and I want to be the original owner. And they weren't that much cheaper. They're pretty, you know. Okay, here we're getting into some Lake Placid Blues and Rosewood Necks. Is that the first Rosewood Neck? There was a Rosewood Neck. So, 1979, we've got a custom Esquire with a burst and a Rosewood Neck. And there's a Lake Placid Blue. So that's not really inaccurate, a Lake Placid Blue Esquire or Tele that's, you know, done as a kind of vintage remake, because, you know, the first ones were pretty much all Blackguards, it looked like to me, or blondes. And I'm not seeing the bursts. Maybe it just doesn't have any in here. Custom Esquire Sunburst. Yeah, it's kind of like I was raised in Detroit, and I was never into cars, but I did know a lot of people that were into cars, and fathers that were just almost like their car was kind of like we say about guitars, it was like a child or a wife or something to them. I remember one friend of mine, his dad had, I don't even remember what it was, but it was some nice vintage car at his garage, and I went over to his house, and my friend said, "Dave, whatever you do, for the love of God, don't lean on that car, don't touch that car." It was just in the garage. He said, don't approach the car, don't go near the car. Don't even touch it, don't even look at it, just, you know, walk past it as quickly. And here we got some blondes. You know what? This kind of reminds me of like Playboy magazine or something. So you're looking at these beautiful. There's some Lake Placid Blues. Definitely a vintage color. Look, there you can see some of the aging of the Lake Placid Blue. They're supposed to turn kind of greenish. And if you wear them a lot, then they really turn green. But you can see the greenish hue coming out of that color. It's really beautiful. Okay, now we got a Dakota Red. See the colors start to, and a Rosewood Neck. And look, the logo looks a little different up there too. That's a 67. I guess that would be a CBS era, right? So, isn't that right? 66, 67, you go to the CBS era. That one's got a Floyd Rose on it. Is that what that is? I've never been much for tremolo bars, so I'm not the one to ask. I always think they mess with the intonation. Look at that. Here we're in the early 70s, 1970. I would imagine that's probably a polyurethane finish. I don't know. I know, but I don't think, even in the CBS era, I don't think they ever discontinued nitro altogether. They just started making a lot of their production guitars with poly. Look at that. Playboy magazine for guitars. Look at that. This is the Lake Placid Blue thin line. That one's got the ashtray on it. You don't see you see on the ashtray on a couple. So now we're into the Strat. Shall we keep looking at some Strats, or maybe I'll split this up? You know, look at that. Now there's some wear on those necks. Those were played 55. Look at that finish on those Strats. Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous. This would make a great book for your coffee table. You know, when I was about 12, a friend of a friend, his mother found a little Playboy magazine under his bed. Maybe you know someone that had that happen to him, or... And fortunately, he was able to clarify to his parents that it wasn't his Playboy magazine. He was just keeping it for a friend. And besides, when on those rare occasions when he did deign to look between its pages, he only read the articles, which are excellent. Here we got some whites. 19. Look at that one. You know, I do kind of like a little bit of that wear on the fingerboard. And I don't think a poly neck's going to do that much. Stratocaster, Desert Sand. Wow. There's another Fiesta Red. You can see more as we get into the 60s. You start to see some of these colors. 62. I think we'll go to the... I don't know. It might take too long. Oh, look, there's a Blue Metal Flake, Lake Placid Blue, Arctic White. See, the colors are getting a little more nuanced. You're starting to see the classic colors. There's a lot of Lake Placid. Let's make me glad I have a Lake Placid Blue guitar. It's a classic color, like a burst or white. It's one of the early colors. Look at these. Sonic Blue. Another Lake Placid Blue Strat. Dakota Red. Ooh. All right, and that's I think we'll stop because we're going into the bases, but we'll look at some more later. Thanks. God bless.